know that racism impacts us in ways beyond just the systemic stuff. But what specifically is the impact emotionally and psychologically? And how do we as a people make space to be sympathetic and compassionate to people's hardships while setting boundaries so that we can be healthy and whole? And I know we are not bootstrap individual responsibility people over here brokish. But what is the role of individual accountability in a healing and a holistic communal care framework? Well, I'm so glad y'all asked the questions because we are talking about it here today at Brokish.
Brokers, welcome to another episode of Brokish, where we talk about the unbelievable ish this country has done to keep us broke. Now here are your hosts, Amber and Erika.
Hey everyone, I'm Amber.
And I'm Erika.
And today is FUBU Day at Brokish, y'all. We're just having a for us, by us conversation. Oh, look, I can't stand her. Don't make no face, okay? It is FUBU. It's for us, by us. We having a FUBU conversation about communal care. And why are you looking like that? Oh, I can't even get through the intro. Why are you looking like that?
First of all, I'm mad at my light situation today. I just feel like I'm not being well lit. I don't like it. I don't want to have the same bootleg setup that you've had for such a long time, Amber. So I'm trying to figure out how to get, I can't get into the light. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's a metaphor for this show or my life. I don't know, but I can't.
You know, because the Bible says, whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he reap. So, you know, the bootleg pendulum has shifted. Okay. So enjoy it on the other side.
And I'm not even sure in your little intro when you're talking about, y'all, let me just say, I don't even know what we're talking about today because Amber, on the one hand, I think is making it be like this spiritual journey. And I don't know, maybe it's just my own leaning, but I feel like we're here to talk about money today. And I think Amber want to call it something else, but I think we're really here to talk about money. But I don't know, Amber, this is the one episode in the season where Amber like puts the work in. So, you know, I'm really following her lead and letting her do this. So, yeah.
Somebody ripped Beyonce out the plastic because she acting brand new. So let me tell y'all, I'm going to tell y'all what happened. I'm going to give y'all some context. So I sent Erika in our group text. I sent a text message a couple of days ago, like, we need to have a conversation about communal care. Like, what does it look like to set boundaries? Because, okay, so much of what we talk about on Brokish, obviously we want to educate people. We want people to have the tools they need in their tool belt to go out here and live an empowered life by recognizing the ways that systemic racism is actively conspiring against them. But even when we recognize the conspiracy, we are living this life every single day. And all of us, to some extent, are connected to people who are broken or being broken by the system. And so the conversation I propose that we have today is like, how do we as a community of Black people live in love and kindness and compassion with each other while recognizing that there are varying degrees of brokenness amongst us? Like, how do we do that well? You know, how do we make space to recognize the things that the systems and the institutions in this world are doing to us while setting boundaries, while being mindful of what we need in our own life, and while not letting broken people break us, even if we understand why they're broken? And I feel like, you know, we haven't had that conversation here. And not only for our sakes, but just to let people know, like, we get it too. We living in this shit too. And we need to talk about it because it is real. So yes, it's part money, but it ain't all money.
Well, y'all, before we get to talking about the brokenness and the boundaries and all of that kind of stuff, some of us are out here in the world living our very best lives. So I also want to make it clear in terms of our positionality out here. So Amber, would you like to tell the brokers what you have been up to lately?
So that's part of why we're talking about boundaries, because not only are there broken people, there are messy people in our midst too. So let me, messy people. So, okay, on Thursday, y'all, I went to see Beyonce, and I sat in the suite, and and I got my life. I did. Listen, I love that little capitalistic helper. I do. She is talented, and she could sing and
Wow.
dance her ass off. And I had me a good old time. Now, Granny was sleepy because Beyonce came out 40 minutes late in Dallas. So I was,
An
I was.
hour and 40 minutes late.
Well, yeah, because the ticket says 8, but I guess it's understood she wasn't coming out till 9. So she came out at 9:40. And so, Granny was struggling. The show ended well after midnight. I didn't get home till late, but listen, I had me a good old time. I had me a good old time. I'm not even gonna lie. I did get on Ticketmaster and I looked up the tickets in Erica's hometown because I was even gonna try to make me a little trek down to Houston to the show last night. I was.
Well, y'all, let me tell you what we're not going to do here at Brokers. We're not going to judge and be like, I wonder how much mutual aid Amber could have rendered to people were it not for her Beyonce ticket. See, that's what we're not going to do here today because that's not what this is about at all. Amber, I'm glad you had a great time. I'm so glad you had a great time.
I can really tell. I can tell, sis, and I appreciate it.
I mean, I'm glad you were able to ignore the images of Beyonce dripped in her Tiffany jewels and her commercials she does with her husband. I'm glad that you were able to ignore all that bullshit and be like, look at her go. So good for you.
You know what? And you know what is only hilarious about that is she posted on her Instagram, what was it, Saturday? I think because our concert was Thursday. She definitely had some
The
brand
brokers
new.
don't follow Beyonce. See, brokers don't follow Beyonce. So
She
you'll have
had
to
some
tell
brand new custom Tiffany pieces for the Dallas show. So it's kind of funny that you said that.
See, and I'm not even trying to be messy. I'm not on IG. I don't know what she's doing out. I don't know. That is hilarious. It's okay. We all have contradictions, right? We're all working through our contradictions. So I get it, Amber. No problem.
You know what? Anyway, what you been up to with your made in China kente cloth scarf on?
That's only because when you go to like wherever you go in Africa, at least the places that I've been in Africa, they all made in China. Like I keep asking people, I'm like, do y'all have any local fabrics? And they're like, no. So I'm trying to like support local fabrics, but the people they're only selling the things that I don't know. That's just what happened to me when I've been there.
That's pretty hilarious.
But what have I been up to? I've only been up to things like band is taking over our lives. So we have a lot of drop-offs, pickups with the band, going to games. I'm not really a Friday night lights type of chick. Is it Friday night lights? Yes. I'm not that. So I'm not into the football. After the band performs, then we leave. Is that bad to say? Well, it's true. So I don't know. That's really what I've been up to, being overwhelmed by school and like the lack of opportunities for PhDs. And yeah, I'm just sort of overwhelmed with life, but my own personal stuff, nothing major.
No, I understand. I understand. And no, by the way, to answer your question, it's not uncouth to leave if you watch your child perform. Um, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The only terrible thing is you still got to come back because your baby can't drive yet. But just wait till you can
Yes.
leave and you ain't got to go back. That's the real freedom.
And this other thing is that my daughter doesn't yet have a spot on the marching band. So she's on the prop crew. So she just out there pushing the props around the field. The help not even blowing the instrument. Anyway, that's great. That's great. Everybody will have their chance.
One band, one sound, ma'am. Okay? She is.
Even if you're not blowing?
That one band, one sound. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. She looks great pushing it out there. I mean, she looks good in her uniform. I love it.
You ain't
so Amber.
shit.
Okay, Amber, let's get into the show. Look, this is enough. This is enough foolishness. So how comfortable do you feel with talking about the pieces of your personal life that spurred on this conversation? So I'd like for you to go there.
I absolutely
with the pieces you feel comfortable with.
It's only fair. So this conversation is deeply personal to me. Listen, September came in like a storm in my life. It's been real crazy around my family. So, Labor Day weekend, my husband's 21-year-old niece died very suddenly. She basically went into some type of cardiac arrest and passed away. She had a 4-year-old daughter, and she was also pregnant at the time as well. So it was really tragic, really unexpected, really heartbreaking to his family. And so, listen, we all know death brings with it a lot of stuff,
Yes.
a lot of stuff, and it might not be the same stuff for everybody, but, in this particular case, there was some suspicion around her boyfriend, some concerns about the extent to which he may or may not have been involved. And so there's a lot of trauma, a lot of history of trauma in my husband's family. So of course there have been fights, threats at the hospital. Like by the time I got to the hospital that Sunday, the police had already been there. They were already there, policing the situation because there had been some issues. And so that kind of fed into everything that was happening. So by the time we get up to the memorial service 2 weeks later, the young man came to the memorial service. And during the end of the service, they were having like a final viewing. So they open the casket and everybody's coming around, and he comes around, and my husband's sister, the mother of the young lady who passed away, I mean, she attacked, and she got it. Okay, grabbed like,
And so he was just, as we
he
all
was
do at funerals, he was just walking by the casket.
walking around. Like I would not have known who he was, and he just was walking around to view the body.
Okay.
So
Okay.
he cuts the corner, passes the casket, and she lunges at him and grabs it. And then literally a riot breaks out. Like people from the north, the south, the east, the west, they jump, they start fighting. And then we hear somebody say, "What you pulling out?" So then everybody starts getting on the floor. Now, mind you, I'm there, my husband's there, our 4 kids are there, but my parents came. And so I think I've shared this before, but my dad is disabled, cannot walk without assistance of anything. So me and my kids, and my aunt, my great aunt is there as well. We are on the floor, but my dad is like sitting there, like, so it is scary. So finally, Golden Gate, the funeral home opens up a back door. and we're able to come out the back door of the funeral home. So I send my kids out. It's helping my mom get my dad out. But it was just so scary. It was so scary. And so after all the emotions came down, I had a long conversation with my husband. I was like, hey, I love you people, but I gotta set some boundaries because this was a lot.
But Amber, when you talk about setting boundaries though, and this was a lot, nobody there, maybe except for his sister, could have anticipated this, right? Like this doesn't feel, there has to be something else is what I'm saying in terms of some other things at play, because who would have known that there was going to be a brawl that broke out?
So that is true. What we learned in the aftermath is that it wasn't completely unanticipated for some people. There were some people there who wanted to smoke, who was like low-key hoping that the young man showed up to have conflict with him. Apparently there have been some back and forth on social media, some accusations made towards him about whatever happened. I don't know, because I'm not, I'm only have hearsay, but to say that it was completely unexpected or unanticipated, I don't think that's 100% true.
Okay.
And also, just to give y'all a little more context, this is the second time these people been. So we go get a cabin every Christmas. Like we like to go. I love Christmas. Okay. So we'll get a cabin. And last year, the same sister, they was fighting at the cabin too. They had a little brawl at the cabin, wigs flying, lashes flying, earrings flying, all the things. So, so this has happened before. And so it just kind of, this time the stakes were high for me because I was like, Lord, my whole family was here. My dad was here. Like the side of the service where it happened, like my dad's walker was over there. So like for a while, we couldn't get to his walker to try to help him get out because that's like where the epicenter was. So it was like all the things. So my kids were crying, they were scared, we trying to get out the funeral home, get in a car. And so it just started to kind of get me thinking about like boundaries, like and being sympathetic, understanding, a lot of this stuff is not malicious. It's motivated by history of trauma. It's motivated by unhealthy things that have been normalized. So it's like, how do you have compassion, understand that this is a heightened emotional time, right? This lady was talking to her child on a Saturday, and on a Sunday, she's gone. Like, that is hard, and it's a layered loss because she's pregnant. So you lost a child, a grandchild, all the things. But then it's like, well, how do you hold the space to be compassionate about things like that while recognizing, like, for my own mental health, for my own wellness, like I feel like I need some different boundaries with these people because I can't do this. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I sent the text, like, we need to have this conversation because I feel like a lot of people are living this, like the money part. Like my husband and I, we were talking about that with the financial stuff that came up during the service. There are people in our lives that we're their financial backup, right? We're their emergency plan, we're their emergency fund. But it's like, child, we got 320 kids ourselves, And it's like, how do you hold space for stuff like that while making sure it doesn't take you under? You know what I mean?
And is that so? I can only talk about the money part, and I can't really talk about that part because I am supremely grateful that I come from a family where all of my siblings, my 1,900 siblings that I know about, right? All of them are able to take care of themselves and their families, right? I've never had anybody call me and ask me for $1. I've just never had that happen. And even in terms of my cousins and things like that, I don't have people asking me, coming to, and the same is true for my husband. Like, we are fortunate in the fact that at least financially, our families don't rely on us in that way. And we are not called upon to do that. So even if we just start there with the money part, how have you been handling that? Like, what do the money requests look like? And how have y'all been handling it? And then in light of this new sort of revelation or the new space that you're in, how are you planning to handle it moving forward? She putting y'all on notice. If any of Amber's family listen to the show, y'all listen, because Amber telling you how it's going to go down now.
So I remember the first time I had this conversation. I was in law school. My great grandmother, who was very mean, but I loved her. I was the only person she liked for whatever reason. I don't know why, but she left me some interest in some oil that she had inherited from her second husband. And so when I was in law school,
you're not gonna tell us how much money it was.
I'm about to, but I'm about to, and then y'all finna gag on how much drama this cost. So XTO Energy bought it for me for $38,000 when I was in law school.
Okay? Amber, you got $38,000.
$38,000. Now, mind y'all, this was right after I had gastric bypass surgery. So I was still paying my little $40 a month to the hospital. I think I owed them, like, my part of the surgery was like $6,000. I had some small bills. So I paid the bills off. And my mom and daddy asked me to buy my brother a car. So I bought my brother a car. But the deal I made with my parents was they could never tell anybody that I had got the money. And I did, because I didn't want nobody else in my family to know. And so they agreed. But of course, my great grandmother is evil. So she eventually told. And y'all, that caused so much drama.
Wait, your great grandmama was dead. Who did you get the money from?
No. She gave it to me while she was alive. It was an intravenous transfer. No, okay. She didn't die till much later. Okay. But when she was trying to be real messy, she let the beans out the bag that she had gave me the oil. Okay. Now, she had given it to me while I was in high school. Like, so I would get like a $30 check here, $60 check here, but then the people came and bought it. I got $38,000. Y'all, you would have thought my family, the way they acted, like that, I didn't give them none of that money. Like, you would have thought I had 60 million, 200 trillion, $355 billion. I was like, y'all, what I was supposed to do with $38,000? Like, I literally took the rest of the money. I think I had like $7,000 or $8,000 left after I paid all my little credit cards off, bought my brother a car, paid, and that was the money I lived on while I was waiting to find out if I passed the bar. That's how I moved back to Dallas, how I, literally started my adult life. But you would have thought my family, you would have thought I became like a millionaire or a billionaire. And there was a lot of tension in my family between my cousins, one of my aunts, really feeling some type of way that I didn't give anybody part of the money or that I didn't share it with them. And that was the first time I like realized like, this is crazy. Like I didn't have nothing to give. Like I was getting my own self out of debt. I'm in school full time.
And you still had student loans, to be clear.
Yes, I still had student loans. Even though I was getting a full scholarship in law school, I racked up more student loans than anybody in the world just in undergrad. So I saved the money. And also I graduated from law school in 2010. It was a whole ass recession. And I knew it was going to be difficult for me to find a job. But that was the first time I realized like what that pressure felt like. And I did not like it, but I also felt very guilty once it came out that I didn't give any of it away to my family. And I think it took me years to realize I was overcompensating for that on the back end in some very unhealthy ways by accommodating requests that I should not have accommodated.
Well, and to me, it speaks to, of course, where Black people are financially, that a windfall of $38,000, even 13, 15 years ago, right, is such a big deal. And for many of us, it is, right? And rightfully so. For many people, that's an annual salary, right? So I'm not at all trying to diminish that as not being a lot of money. But in terms of just comparatively speaking, as we look to other people, that's like, for us, that is absolutely a significant amount of money. And that part is the thing that like enrages me, is that for us, that part that's not that much is so much because we have so little.
Yes. And figuring out a way to hold that intellectual truth while recognizing that it was okay for me to look out for myself. Because once it came out, the way, for many years, I felt terrible about that. I felt terrible, that because there's only 3 great grandchildren on my mother's side. It was me, my brother, and my cousin. So technically my cousin was the only person who didn't get anything out of it because I got my brother a car. And so I felt terrible. And I was like, oh, maybe I should have gave her something too, or that guilt sat on me for a long time. And so I definitely tried to overcompensate for it. And so even now, I've set some very bad boundaries in this area, so people feel very comfortable asking me for things that it's like,
what are bad boundaries? Tell what you do, Amber. What you do?
And
why is it bad?
Well, I think so. I feel like it's bad because I feel some of the things I've done in the past, I've encouraged bad financial behavior. You know what I'm saying? So like, you'll ask me for money like, oh, can I borrow $50? And it's like, well, I already know I'm not going to get it back, but I give you the money and you tell me that the money is for groceries or the money is for a light bill. And then I see you posting on the internet at Papa Do's,
Well, Amber, I got to push back on this one now. Why do you care? No, because your material condition is unchanged, right? If I come and I'm like, Amber, can I have $50? You give me $50. You down $50 no matter what I do with the money.
True. But the problem is you tell me that you're going to take the $50 and pay your light bill. Then I see you at Papa Do's. And then the Thursday after that, you tell me you need the same $50 again to pay your light bill because you didn't pay it with the first 50 you asked me for. So, and what I'm saying is, I feel like the bad boundaries I've set is I've never really said anything about it. You know what I'm saying? So it's one thing if you just say, sis, let me hold $50 and you don't put no extra stuff on it. And I give you the $50, we good. You can go to Papa Do's, you can go to Papa Knows, wherever you want to go. But then if you ask me, hey, can you give me this money? Because I need money to pay my bills. And then I give you the money to pay your bills. And then you come back to me maybe 2 or 3 days later and ask me for the same money to pay the same bill. Well, yes, I feel some kind of way about it.
I don't know, Amber. This is a rough one. This is a rough one.
You don't think that's dishonest though? You don't think like
it's not about it being dishonest. The thing that is I guess that's weighing on me is, so in school I'm taking this class on social inequality. So the latest book that we're reading is this book by a guy named Matthew Desmond. It's called Evicted. And he's basically talking about these two groups, one white, essentially one like white trailer park group, one Black urban group in Milwaukee. And he's talking about all of the things that happen to them as they're living through housing insecurity, right?
Mhm.
And various stages of homelessness and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that struck me in reading the book, and it's an ethnography, so he was like recording his conversations with people according to the methods that he shared, right? So putting the ethics or whatever of all of that aside, if I'm to take him at his word, what these people actually said, it's so sad because a lot of what happens is people poverty shaming themselves, right? Like, I don't deserve this because I'm poor, right? Like, because I'm poor, I can have no extra pleasure. I can have no leisure. I can have nothing because I'm poor. And then there was one woman in the story, and she basically was like, look, I got my SNAP, and she was like, I went and had lobster because I'm not going to be able to pay my rent is still not going to be paid with this $80. My bill's still not going to be paid with this $80. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go get lobster. And this was actually, this was an example of the white woman, right? So maybe she wasn't going to Papa Dough, but it's the same kind of thing. You know what my point is? And so I understand from the perspective of the family member who is giving this. And also I started off with my caveat of don't nobody ask me for money, thank God. But I do feel like even if I didn't use it for the light bill, like I'm broke, so I don't get nothing, Amber.
Well,
And I can't ask you to go to I can't ask you to go to Papa Dough because I feel like you say no to Papa Dough.
No, I don't. Listen, no, I don't. But part of what the tension I hold, and I was about to say part of the shit that annoys me because that's what I feel. That's what the feeling is it's like, don't come to me and ask me for $50 if you know you really need $100. And if you're gonna take the $50 and go do something else with it, that's fine. Because you never have to tell me it was for your light bill anyway. Because I ain't asked you for that. You know what I'm saying? And so if you tell me, hey, I need this money for this reason, and I give you the money for that reason, and you tell me that's how much you need, and this will take care of the problem, and then I see you doing something else with the money, and then you come back and ask me for the same money for the same purpose, yes, I feel some type of way because I feel like I'm being misled. It has nothing to do with, oh, you went to Papa Do's, but you could have just said, hey, can I have $100? Can I have $100?
Amber, I don't know why you're feeling misled though, because you know that, and I'm not literally saying you're giving $50, but whatever it is, but you know these smaller quantities of money, they're not sustaining nobody's lifestyle. So it's like, and do you know that the people that you're talking about, do you know that they're in fact poor? Like,
of course, and that's why I
Okay.
tend to double. So now when I get the request for the 40, I send 100. I try to anticipate those things, but also I feel like don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining either. Like, don't tell me you need money to get your car fixed and then you call and ask another cousin for money because you're trying to buy a ticket to Beyonce. You know what I'm saying? Like, Don't.
Some of us deserve Beyonce and others don't. Is
No,
that
it's not. It's not that it ain't about deserve, but it's like you don't even have to. My thing is, don't tell me a reason. I just ask. If you ain't got to do all that, but don't do that because that's the interpersonal part that's hard for me when I feel like people are trying to play me. That I think that makes it hard to be invested when I feel like I'm being played.
And maybe as a part of the community care, it is you interrupting and saying, I actually don't want to know. I actually don't know why why you need the money is immaterial to me because, I'm going to give you the money. But I think that the thing, Amber, that I'm still stuck on specific, I don't know what does it mean when your ear lobe is itching? And like, it's not my palm, it's my earlobe. Anyway. So I just feel like in terms of asking of the why, so often people who are poor, working class, even middle class people to some degree, right? They're always being asked why. So when I go and I'm trying to go sign up for my SNAP benefits, I have to fill out all these things. They're asking me all of the whys, right? When I have to fill out these applications for housing, why might I have been evicted? Why might I have whatever my criminal record may or may not be,
Yeah.
right? So they're always being asked to offer an explanation. So I think from their perspective, it might be just that's the muscle memory that they have. Nobody gives them anything, right? Like that's not even a notion.
That's so interesting that you say that because in the wake of all of this happening, I have picked up Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGruy. I'm not sure if I'm saying her last name right, but that's one of the things she talks about when she's talking about basically the ways that the impacts of the transatlantic slave trade is embedded in our pathology is that it leaves a vacant esteem, where people are normalized to being positioned in undignified ways
Absolutely.
in their time of need. So I receive that. And that makes a lot of sense. I just think that when you're on the receiving end of it, it's very hard to feel like that's what's happening as opposed to feel like people are trying to take advantage of you or play you for a fool. And sometimes that's where I'm left with it. Like I would just rather you ask, like I appreciate the quick text. And also that's another rule. Don't call me and ask me for no money. Text me. Do not call me and ask me for no money. Text me and send me
Noted.
don't call me. I don't want no long story. I even joke with my family. I will cut you off in the middle of a sob story real quick. Just how much do you need? Because I don't want to hear all that. So when I feel like I try to be gracious in that way, like I don't want no long sob story, I don't need to know all your business, I will help as much as I can. And then when I feel like I'm kind of being misled, even though I'm doing it that way, that be hurt my little feelings, even though I understand intellectually what you're saying.
Yeah, and I get it from both sides. I am just because I'm not usually in a position where this happens to me, I am trying to think through maybe some of the things that might be your family members might be thinking about some of the things that they might be going through, right? So they're like, nowhere in my life do I go anywhere and people are not asking me 1,000 questions. Nowhere do I not have to justify everything that I do, my actions, my thoughts. I'm always having to do that. And so maybe they're going to you just with that having already been the case, right? They're thinking she's going to be like everybody else and make me have to describe and explain. Okay. But you're saying, so maybe that's okay. In terms of tip one is just tell people, don't tell us what is just, if you need something, just ask for what you need. You ain't got to give a
Yeah.
justification.
Yeah. I think that helps a lot. And also, ask for what you really need. Don't ask me for $40 if you know you short $80 on your light bill. Let me tell you all I got is $40. Because the multiple requests can be difficult. It can feel like a lot. So if you $80 short, $90 short, $500 short, let me tell you, since I got 5 on me, right? Let me tell you how much I can contribute. But one of the things that I think would be really helpful when we're having this conversation about how to care for each other is take the shame off the amount. If you know you need $500 to get caught up on your bill, ask for it. Now, I might not be able to give you all of that every single time, but I think it goes a long way in the relationship when you come and you come sincerely that one time, as opposed to, I need $40. Okay, I need $50. Because it feels more like manipulation to the person that's on the giving end. You know what I'm saying?
And so again, if I'm gonna jump into this role, one of the things that I was basically picking up as I was reading through that book too is that people are sort of creating sometimes a bench of people that can help them, right? So if I'm
Yeah.
creating a bench of people that can help me, I don't want to overtax any one of those people. So I might go to you and ask for $40 because I'm expecting to go to this person for this, right? And maybe the other two don't pan out. And so it wasn't that I didn't know. I was just trying to be like, how can I spread the love around, right? Like not overburden single people with things as opposed to my community with a burden. So I don't know. That's hard too, because at the end of the day, no matter what, if I call you Amber and I go, I need $500 because of the way things are set up in 2023, like 2 weeks later I'm gonna need to. That's just like stuff at the grocery store is high. Like when can you leave the grocery store without spending $100? Like you don't have no meat, vegetables, and that's what you spent. It's so I don't know. This is really tough for me, just in terms of what do you do?
Yeah. No, I actually appreciate your perspective, because most of the people that I talk to about this issue are people who are venting about similar frustrations. So to kind of have somebody with a clear slate who isn't burdened by the frustration of it actually is very helpful. And so as we transition from the money, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts around the component having to do with the violence and the aggression too, because I know that's another thing that post-traumatic slave disorder talks about. It's like there's for a lot of
Whatever, you
people.
just wait, whoa, 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 whoa. You just dropped the post-traumatic slave syndrome on us a couple minutes ago, and I didn't say nothing, but you can't be dropping this kind of stuff and not telling the people what you're talking about.
Okay. I did tell them. Okay, so after this started happening, I picked up a book. I started,
You didn't
started
tell us
reading a
what the
book.
syndrome is about, how
Oh,
it
okay.
manifests. It's like,
I literally did. I said it's a part of the pathology that is embedded in us as a result of being the descendants of enslaved people. So one of the things, so Dr. Joy spent 11 years doing research, both here in the United States and on the African continent, um, speaking with the descendants of enslaved people, not just about their physical condition, but about their emotional and psychological condition as well. And as a result of that, she developed a psychological framework to talk about some of the ways that the history of enslavement literally has a psychological impact on the descendants of enslaved people. And so she has a framework called MAP, and I'm about to pull it up because I ain't gonna botch this lady's research. But it is multi-generational trauma, absence of opportunity to heal or access the benefits available to society, which is basically not being able to deal with the trauma, and then that leading to P, post-traumatic slave syndrome. And her research basically says that syndrome shows up in several ways. The vacant esteem, which is what Erika was talking about, a lot of the poverty shaming, a lot of the normalized indignity of being a Black person in this country and how we're expected to just take it. And she talks about a marked propensity for anger and violence, how a lot of the negative feelings that people experience, they are expressed through violent outbursts. And that happens for a variety of reasons, from the natural suspicion that a lot of people harbor because of the unsafety and insecurity they experience living where they live and in the environments that they're forced to exist in. And then she talks about racist socialization and internalized racism, which is the psychological component of ingesting the messaging and the propaganda of racism in a way that makes you hate yourself by doing and engaging in behavior that undermines your overall well-being. So that is what
Do y'all think she told us that before? Did I miss did she tell us that before, or is she just not telling us that now? I don't know. Maybe I missed it.
I'm further elaborating. Okay.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
further
Okay.
elaborating.
Okay, thanks.
But yes, so that is basically what we are talking about today. Like, as we live with our friends and our family and our cousins who are living in these experiences to varying degrees, how do you do that? Like, how do you do that? How do you process that in a way that makes room for your own mental health, that makes room for you to hold people individually accountable, while still being real aware that all of this shit is happening because of the environment that we are forced to live in? You know what I'm saying?
And that's the thing I want to be clear about, is that people, and it's not like the silly hurt people, I don't mean like that, but just on some real basic shit, people's needs aren't being met, right? Their needs for being able to care for themselves and their family in a way that is dignified, with them being able to find work and hobbies that are generative to them, right? People just aren't being able to do that. Taking care of their children being able to thrive in school and in other places. And so as a result of that, we know, of course, that there are some consequences that come about. But this is not us saying that, Black people are not pathological. That is not what this is at all. It is just when your needs don't get met, some other things happen.
Yeah. And that is true. And also, how do you live in community with people whose needs aren't being met in a way that is loving and sensitive to them, but also mindful of yourself? Because I think that's really what we don't talk about enough as a people, like recognizing that is something we have to deal with if liberation is really a group project.
Well, my question is, but you can't ask that question without asking, how do we meet people's needs? Like, I think our responsibility is being a part of the community. And again, it's easy for me to say that because my community and family are working differently, right? So it's very easy for me to say this. But how do we help people meet their needs?
Well, let me ask you this as a counter to that. Because when I had this conversation with one of my other girlfriends, this is what she said to me. And I've been thinking about it, and I find it to be deeply profound. But I got a feeling you finna shit on both of us. But so she told me, and I'm gonna get comfortable in my chair because she said to me, she said, "Girl, let me tell you something." She said, "You gotta realize that you have to recognize when you're dealing with people that Harriet would have left on a plantation." She was like, "It doesn't mean that they don't deserve to be free, and it doesn't mean that they deserve to be in the bondage that they're in, but you can only guide people to freedom when you are running for your freedom. You can't carry them on your back." She's like, "So Harriet made all these trips to go get people for freedom, but she couldn't take everybody with her." She's like, "But the people that she left behind, she was still looking out for them by advocating for an abolition framework, right? But while recognizing that those people deserve to be free, and she's advocating for them and fighting to dismantle this system, but still recognizing you can't come with me because you're too afraid to run. And if you don't use your own feet and if you don't use your own legs, we're all going to get caught. Like, if you aren't willing to run yourself, I can't force you to come." And I have been thinking about that a lot because I'm like, damn, that is kind of true. Like, she couldn't take everybody with her, and for whatever the reason is. And so she, basically what she was just telling me, she was like, you got to be okay with the fact that you can't take everybody with you.
We cannot individually save the world, right? Like, right. I think that goes without saying, right? We cannot save our communities. That is not all this. None of this stuff can happen with us by ourselves. I think I'm asking a slightly different question, right? We have limited resources. We have limited whatever. But I'm wondering if a part of what we can do is have some real conversations with people about what their circumstances and situations are and try to figure out for them what can be a way out. And maybe maybe that is not a realistic answer. Maybe because of all these 100 things that happened in the years that they have lived, there isn't a way out that is like just an easy way out. I don't know. But can a part of this just be about having a conversation? Because what I also hear happening is you have people coming to you, whether it's for money or like legal advice, right? You probably get a lot of people asking you for legal
Ooh,
advice all the
child.
time, right? They want to know. I sometimes get people asking me for financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that. I try to help where I can. But what I don't normally do is I don't go, okay, let's get beyond this thing that you're asking for. Let's understand what's happening behind the scenes. Because I do feel that there may be some things that we can do that can be helpful for people in longer term ways. But in our desire not to have the long sob story played out to us, we might miss the opportunity to see what we could do that might be helpful for them beyond the $50.
I received that. I received that. Look, I think the only pushback I would give to what you're saying is I think that is a little bit of an idealistic framework because the hard truth we have to confront is everybody does not want help. And there are people who are actively in the struggle, actively, you know, in levels of brokenness who are resistant to the help that they need to come out of it in a healthy way. And so I think what you're saying applies to the people who are open and willing, but there are a lot of people who are resistant.
Okay. So like what's true for the majority of people, right? So we're not talking about cousins or friends or family members that we know maybe might be like under the grip of an addiction, that we know that they're very far down in this rabbit hole, and they're not in a place where we can have that like, so we're not talking about the outliers here, right? But we may be talking about our cousin who is a single parent, who has a child who is in need of this or that. Like, is there a way for us to at least, and they may not want it, right? But can we approach it like, let's have a conversation that's deeper than the $50, even though we understand that's going to take a greater emotional toll on us, but maybe there is something more that we can provide, Amber. I just feel like the engagements that we're having with people on whatever level are very surface level. And how do we not engage with our friends and our family and our community like a social service agency, just like right here, fill out this form and
Mhm.
but how do we come to them like, no, we're trying to wrap you up and let's understand. But again, all the t-shirt, I don't have no experience in none of this. I'm just talking.
I do think some of that, though, and I will tell you, just having been on the other side, part of the reason for me, candidly, why I don't engage that a whole lot is because there is a lot of disappointment that comes with trying to do that and really going deep with somebody. And then when you try to position them or help them, and they don't do none of it. Like if I had $1 for every let's get you on a budget, let's get a plan, let's let me see where I can really help you, here's the form, I done already filled it out for you, all you have to do is send this form in, and they're going to take this off your credit, or they're going to take this eviction off, and then you'll be able to get this place, or here's this social services, I set up the appointment for you, go here, and these are the people who will help you, get to the front of the line, leveraging connections, doing all of these things. And it is more than I've probably ever been willing to admit out loud, it's really hurtful when you go to bat for people like that and they don't accept it. It is. And it's disappointing and you feel foolish and you feel stupid and you feel all the things, but you also feel hardened. Like, I'm never going to do that again. You know, like I don't ever want to let somebody, like I had a, I can tell this in a way where I'm not going to get this far, but several years ago, I took a
Are
pro
you
bono
sure?
case. Yes, I took a pro bono case of someone who was fighting to keep a professional license that they had. And they had to go before the state board in Austin um, over some allegations made against them by an employer. And I went to Austin, present for the administrative hearing, and the person did not show up. And when I called them, they were like, "Oh, I overslept." And I was like, I drove to Austin too this morning. Like we were supposed to meet at like 8 o'clock, and I had completed discovery. Like I had done all these things to help this person, you know, go to bat with the administrative agency about keeping their license so they could continue to be employed. I showed up in Austin that morning for the hearing, and they did not. And the response was just, "Well, I overslept." And I'm like, that's it. That's it.
So you're just saying that those experiences harden you, and then you
Yes.
are less willing to provide that level of assistance and care because you don't want to run into that again.
Yes, and it also, there's a level of dissonance because you try to act like it don't really bother you, you know. But then when you like really sit in this, like I left my family, I went spent the night at my parents' house so I could be closer. Woke up at the crack of dawn, drove to Austin, you know, to help somebody, and not only because that's a 3.5 hour drive. So you knew before 9:30 when it started, you weren't gonna be there at 9:30. Like, because at the point when you still in Dallas at 8, 7, you know, like you could have let me know, right? You could have just called me and let me know, like, I'm not gonna make it. And so I think that's for me where the struggle is, like, how do we hold attention? How do we hold people personally accountable while still recognizing like that shouldn't ever be the only time I do that? You know what I'm saying? Because if I can help people like with the tools that you have as a lawyer, because legal fees are expensive, the shit is crazy to navigate for most people. But how do you hold attention? Like, because to me, that person was marked off my list. Like, you can't ever call me about another legal issue again. Okay.
Wow.
I'm Kiki Palmer. No
That's
offense to this man, but who is this man? I
that's
I'm
what your Bible told you to do, Amber? Because you be
uh-uh.
talking a lot about what Jesus
Mm.
said and did, and I'm just wondering if a lack of forgiveness is that what
No,
you read
no,
about?
that is not unforgiveness. Because I forgive you, but I'm not driving to Austin for you no more. Mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm,
So,
mm-mm.
Amber, I don't even know. I know that this was an episode of really just like we don't know, of course. Maybe this whole season, a lot of this season is like we coming to y'all and we like we don't know. We just talking through some like shit is broke and we are talking through it. And that is what you see here. I I don't know, but here's what I am afraid of. And I do have one personal story. So I had a friend and she and I were for several years, probably like 4 or 5 years, we were extraordinarily close, right? Like talk, text all the time. We were doing some kind of work together, I guess you could say. And so we were always at events together, whether it was like the work stuff or the kiki and stuff, like really, really, really very close. And there were some other events that brought us together. And one of the things that happened is that she called me one day And she said, I'm calling you because I'm about to get evicted and I just wanted you to know. Okay. She didn't ask me for any money. She didn't ask me for anything. She just said, I'm about to be evicted and I wanted to let you know in case you came by my house, which was weird because I never popped up at her house. Right. So kind of, I was like, that's weird, but okay. So I did ask her, I was like, how much money, how much do you need? Right. And so she said she needed a few $1,000s to be able to pay the people so that she wouldn't be evicted. And I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Well, I'll meet you up at the bank. We'll go get a cashier's check. We'll get it for the people so that you won't get evicted. She was like, okay, great. Did that, went up to the bank, got the cashier's check, blah, blah. The next day she came to my house. And I will say that in hindsight and retrospect, I did not care for her well in terms of, because I was like, I was being me. Well, how do you get to the point of being evicted? Like, because you knew before today, because this isn't a person who has like was facing housing insecurity up to this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, this wasn't a person who this was something that was true in their life or whatever. So there were some things that were happening. And I was like, how did we get here?
Right.
And I was
Right.
like, um, and she had faced like some, like her husband had been out of work and some other things like that. And I was like, well, did y'all apply for unemployment? Did y'all apply for a SNAP and all this other kind of stuff? And she was like, I don't like asking the government for things, that kind of thing. And so again, I hope that I'm a different person today than I was then. But I was like, well, I think it's cruel and mean for you to come to, not that you came, she didn't come to me, but she did ask some other family members, some other people for money, I guess, before this. It's like, I think that's weird that you would go and ask them first when there are like literally, in my mind at least, this raggedy government should do something for its citizens, right? Like you should go and do all the other things, right? Like she knew about social services to be able to get help. And she was like, I don't want to be one of those people. So I also, so anyway, I was not kind to her in terms of my response, because my response really was, why didn't you? You should have, blah, blah, blah. That's just not how you treat a friend. So but anyway, we ended up not being friends after that, right? Like that was probably the last time that I talked to her. And years, like this is years in the past, but that still weighs heavily on me because I think about the fact that me giving that to her took nothing from me, right? Like my kids didn't lose out on anything. I didn't lose out on anything. Nothing in my life changed. But the fact that I like took it out on her, like, why didn't you? Even though still in retrospect, I do think that some of us need to move away from the notion of welfare being a bad thing when like corporations live and die on it, like the whole farming industry, big
Rich
tech,
white people too. Yeah.
all the people, right? Everybody of means lives on welfare, and the poor people are not supposed to or feel ashamed because they are. But this conversation makes me think about that, and it makes me think about, first of all, how I could have a friend that was a close friend that was so close to that and I didn't know that. And then so I'm like, well, am I really in community with you? And I sit with that, but I also again just sit with wanting to make sure that I am relating to people in a way that's always putting their humanity before all the rest of this bullshit, right? Like, because everybody is being oppressed by the system in different ways. And while it can be easy for us to point the fingers, and I know what you mean by individual accountability and responsibility, I absolutely know. But I think because I hold on to that experience, that it is hard for me to not want to be like, what can we do differently? Like how can we approach these situations to try to get at something so that we don't alienate people? Because that's
Yeah.
ultimately what I don't want to do, right? Like, and I know
Yeah.
Harriet can't take everybody, but still the people that can't be that can't be taken, I still don't want them to be alienated. They're still a part of the community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's why we have to have these conversations, because we need to not wait until we're frustrated, not wait until somebody's made the request and things haven't gone perfectly. And then the only time we're ever talking about it is in frustration. I think we need to be normalizing these types of conversations so we can all know how to show up for each other. And this has been, like I said, it's been a hard month for me, but I appreciate having a conversation with somebody like you who has a completely different perspective, who isn't just venting with me because we are similarly situated, because it's in these moments where we learn and we grow. And if we really are going to care about each other, we have to be challenged and called out on our stuff and willing to hear and receive different points of view and ways to do it differently. Because one thing for sure, I ain't never going to have enough nothing where I will be so free that I can be unconcerned about the Black people around me. It'll never happen. It'll never happen. So we have to care about each other. We have to. So point blank.
And to keep it a buck, right? I mean, your experience and you commiserating with your friends about this, that is the experience of the Black people who, as they say, made it out, right? Like I'm the outlier. Y'all are the ones. I was reading this article recently. I think her name is Michelle Singletary. She writes for the New York Times or something. Okay.
Yeah.
So Michelle Singletary wrote this column about how she paid her house off. She had like a 15-year mortgage. She paid it off in 7 years. And she wrote an article about that. And she said, the people was all in my mentions calling me everything but a child of God because I said that I paid my house off. Because if you're in the financial industry, it doesn't make sense on paper for you to pay your house off, right? For a number of different reasons. She was like in a 2 or 3% interest rate. And so they're like, you got to put your money in the stock market. Da, 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 da. And the thing about it is that those people don't know Black math, and Black math is not white math, right? Like the shit is different. And in Black math, it is better for you to have the security of a paid off house, as opposed to putting your money in the uncertainty of the stock market, right? Like that's just Black math. And so for so many of us, being able to have having our family, our extended family as a line item on our monthly budget is a real thing that people have to contend with. And yeah, you're excited because you made it out, right? And you have some disposable income and you have some extra saved up and you can do that and you're happy to do it. But again, for me, that's sad because of what it means for all of your other cousins who didn't make it out, who have to call you. And I just like the math is different. Like shit is just different.
Yes, 100%. 100%. That's so true. It's different math, and not only is it different math, but it's different. It's a different numerical system altogether, because what really ain't shit is shit to us. You know what I'm saying? Like
$38,000.
Yes, people's imagination about what I be like, y'all don't know. I'm over here in these Costco leggings, and it ain't 100% because I want to be. Okay, I'm in these Costco leggings because I got a lot of kids. Okay, and this is what I do so that we can make the dollar stretch. But it's hard to say that to somebody who doesn't have anything, when what you consider to be little, what you know objectively is a little, would be life-changing and transformative for them. So it's hard to be like, girl, this ain't no money, even though it ain't.
Yeah, we came right back around to the $38,000, right? Like $38,000 is a lot of money, but it ain't.
Right.
In terms of your whole family. And be like, where's my piece?
Yes. it's like,
where's my piece?
It ain't no pieces, child. It ain't no pieces.
So yeah, y'all, I feel like we're never going to get to any solutions, I think. And again, Brokish is not a show where we're trying to come up with solutions because shit is complicated. And if we had the solutions, like, come on. But in terms of solutions is the wrong term, just ways to better manage these situations that we know are coming up. because we know that Black math is different, because we know that Black families and positionalities are different, that we are just going to have to deal with our families in different ways, but we want to do that in thoughtful ways. And we want to do that keeping in mind liberation and community. And to your point, Amber, sometimes our cousins ain't shit. Like some of us have some ain't shit cousins. Like it just is what it is.
Facts. And we still love them, but you got to set a boundary. Got to set a boundary and love them from a distance. And you can know that they still don't deserve to be, dehumanized and oppressed by this whack ass system. But, back, give me 50 feet in addition.
Mm-hmm. So, you got that off your chest, Amber? You okay?
I am. Let me tell the truth, because that's what the whole point is. I'm not okay. Like, I'm not okay. That took me out. Like, I'm not okay. I'm not okay yet, but I'm going to be okay. And I also know that eventually I won't be all the things: angry, frustrated, upset. It will work itself out. But part of my work is knowing it's okay if I'm not okay right now, because that's the truth. I'm not okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I do want you to know that let us know in the group chat or on the individual chat, or, reach out. Let me know if I need to send some chicken over there, if I need to come pick up your badass kids. Let me know.
That is a standing offer, but I can't eat no more damn chicken. I'm chickened out. I don't want no more chicken. I don't want no more green beans, and I don't want no more Hawaiian rolls for a minute. But these badass kids are yours for the taking. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Yom Kippur, all the things. Okay? Anytime.
Mm-hmm. Bring them down to the game. We should go watch the football game. That'll be fun.
See, Erika, you get to leave. I have games, all the games, Saturday games. So I don't want to go to no more sports games, but I can drop them off with Auntie Erika. And I'm also going to text you now that I know you in a giving spirit. I need $40 because I'm trying to go see Equinox 3 with Denzel when I get to DC tomorrow. I'm going to DC for work, but my conference don't start till the evening, and I get there at 2. And I'm trying to go to the movies at the Bootleg Movie Theater in Union Station. So I'm going to ask you for $40 so I can go see Uncle Denzel in Equinox 3. Okay?
Okay. Isn't he like a cop or an ex-cop? But anyway, it's fine. That's how you want to watch. It's fine. It's totally fine. Isn't he?
Yes, he's the good guy. But Denzel will forever be okay because he played Malcolm X and he did it so well. So even when he don't do things well, he is redeemed because he was Brother Malcolm. And I said it, I mean it, at me, and let's argue about it.
Okay, so Amber, do you have any homework for the people?
So yes, there is some homework, but you're not going to fail if you don't do it. So I'm going to post a YouTube video. Dr. Joy did an amazing talk on post-traumatic slave syndrome, and everybody don't like to read. So I'm not even going to assign no reading. But hopefully some of the points that she makes in this YouTube video will give you guys some information to start this conversation in your own corner of the world. And also, we're going to have a conversation about it on our social media as well. Talk to us about your experiences, where you're positioned in your family, how these conversations are relevant to you. Because I think part of the problem is that we just don't talk about it enough in healthy ways. So we're going to post a YouTube clip and you guys can watch it and we're going to talk about it.
Okay, y'all, in a world that is so full of strife, it can be really easy to adopt this American ideal of individualism. But we have to remember that we're not from here. And our ancestors fought and resisted the horrors of their day as a community. And we believe they encourage us from the other side to do the same. So like we talked about, liberation is a group project. And sometimes we may have to pull more weight than all the other people around us. And that's okay because we all win together. Thanks for tuning in. And we look forward to catching up with you on the next episode of Brokish.
All right, good people. Thanks for listening to Brokish. For more episodes, visit us at brokish.com or subscribe, and Brokish will get direct deposited into your favorite podcast app on the 1st and 15th. Share Brokish with your friends and join the conversation on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Music for Brokish is Come Get Some by Blank and Kit. Until next time, goodbye and good luck.
They say when you wear Black Power Media gear, you can accomplish anything. You play any and every position. Coaching, to kicking, to receiving, to running and juking. And, oh my goodness, I see that again in slow motion. Get off me. And you're going to have a lot of haters coming at you, but what you got to do is you got to shake them off, and get to your goal and accomplish it. And when that's done, it's a beautiful thing. I'm talking about going hard, extra, for that extra point. And when it's done beautifully, you talking about touchdown. Oh, and the crowd goes wild and they're celebrating with you and everything. Man, let's see that again. Nice.
Black Power Media, baby. That's how we do it.
Now go to blackpowermedia.org and get you some of that gear. Empower yourself today. Yeah.